Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, back once again with another big news update. We have news on the potential explained reason for a WWE superstar's absence on SmackDown Live recently. He appeared to have been written out of his current storyline, and we think we might have an inkling why that is, or at least we've found a reason on the old internet machine. Also, we're going to talk about, I guess, a clause in WWE's whole UK deal that's only really been picked up upon by news sites last night/today. Everyone seems to have jumped on it, but the information was there in this week's Observer. Everyone just missed it, including myself. It was just one short sentence or two that had far wider implications, but I guess that's the danger when you read Dave Meltzer's dry tones. Also, it sounds disrespectful. He does a great service to the business. Also, we're going to talk about JBL, because it was his birthday last night, and he had some interesting things to say on Twitter about a certain Cody Rhodes. May have had a few shandies to celebrate the occasion. Might have just done Bradshaw. So without any further ado, let's have a look at all of the lovely news. First and foremost, well, let's talk about the big. It's time to talk about the Big Show, because he has been recently written out of his storyline on SmackDown Live, to the surprise of many online, given its abruptness and the fact that it was only yesterday, really, that Big Show turned heel, and now he seems to have turned face again, or whatever. Big Show turns all the time. That's just one of the things that happens in wrestling. It's one of wrestling's grand old traditions. It's that any given week, Big Show could turn. He seemed to potentially do so on SmackDown, punching Cesaro in the face backstage. Cesaro is obviously a heel. That would maybe turn Big Show babyface. I don't really know yet. But he seems to have left the bar as their kind of ringside enforcer. And the thinking is, according to Wrestling Observer Radio, that he may be taking time off to recover from an injury. Now, once again, a lot of fans were taken by surprise by the abruptness with which Big Show was written out of this storyline. It seemed like it was going to last a lot longer with him as their insurance policy. Of course, he was the man who made Drake Maverick urinate his own pants on pay-per-view at Survivor Series, because the two managers, or outside enforcers, I guess Big Show's more of an enforcer than a manager, had a little clash outside the ring. He grabbed Drake Maverick by the neck and made him wet his pants. So it seemed as though Big Show was going to be an integral part of the bar going forwards, until he turned on Cesaro on SmackDown. Now, Brian Alvarez noted that Big Show is apparently suffering from a hamstring injury recently, and was having trouble on this week's SmackDown and on last week's Thanksgiving edition of SmackDown getting in and out of the ring. With that said, though, he did take a table bump during the bar's Thanksgiving match against the New Day. He got hit off the apron and fell through a table of food. So how severe that injury is, it's hard to tell. Of course, we know that wrestlers often like to soldier on and maybe take bumps that they perhaps shouldn't, despite, any sort of injuries they may be carrying. And Big Show is one of those old school guys who I'm sure would insist upon taking that bump regardless of a potential hamstring injury. So it's kind of hard to grade just how severe the injury is at the moment, but I think it's probably wise, if he is struggling that much, for Big Show to take some time off. It does make the story a little bit abrupt, but the bar don't particularly need Big Show as part of their storyline going forwards. They can cheat to win, or they can outclass weaker opponents and that sort of thing. We do wish Big Show a full and speedy recovery, however, and I just really want Big Show to get a good send-off, He's never had that big final moment of his career, and I'd like for him to be fit and healthy enough to do so when that time comes around. Now it's time to talk about that short sentence or two in this week's edition of the Wrestling Observer, which kind of gave a hint as to the extent of WWE's deal with these UK promotions such as ICW and Progress and OTT and those sort of places. Obviously, we all know now that this week WWE kind of tightened their restrictions on their wrestlers, saying, as of January 1st, 2019, you can't work for these certain promotions against these certain guys who aren't signed, which a lot of people have been attacking the wrestlers online, saying, oh, you sold out and stuff. I would never, no matter what you think of this deal and what it means for the UK industry, I would never attack a wrestler for signing that deal. They've worked really hard to get to that point. They were going to work less shows and make more money. Can't really blame them for doing so. I'd probably do the same if I were a wrestler. However, in the Observer, Dave Meltzer wrote, and again, this slipped under the radar, even though the Observer was out yesterday, it only really got picked up upon late last night / early this morning. He said, part of WWE's working agreement originally offered and agreed to where the WWE would have the right for the next several years, if they choose, to purchase the companies for an agreed upon price, brackets, high six figures in at least some cases, and then shut them down so they would no longer compete with themselves, with the idea that this would take place when they were running full-time schedules in those markets. And obviously WWE are creeping closer and closer to running full-time schedules in the UK market. However, I have to question whether WWE would exercise this. It would be really brutal and, I guess, ruthless business practice, and it wouldn't be the first time in WWE history that they've, done such a thing. I'm talking about the old territory days when they kind of cast the NWA away. But I think in modern terms, with Triple H seemingly heading up this project, he seems to have a more cooperative view of the wrestling business in terms of not buying out the competition, rather working with them to harvest talent and then bring them up through WWE's system. Of course, the eye is always on making as big a success out of WWE as possible and getting the best talent for themselves. Of course it is, it's a business. But Triple H seems to see the benefit, I'm at least going to say that now, he seems to see the benefit in using other promotions and working with them to kind of a rising tide raises all boats kind of thing. I don't know if the clause is merely there just as a warning in case a promotion gets a little bit unruly or starts to go against WWE's restrictions that they've signed, I suppose. But I think if we look to Evolve in the United States, for example, that's a promotion with certain ties to WWE, similarly to ICW and Progress and those sort of promotions. But at the same time, WWE have worked alongside Evolve rather than tried to buy them out or overshadow them. And I think, and this is pure speculation, but I think that's the sort of thing we're going to see in the UK. If they did buy out one of these big UK promotions, there would be one hell of a response online. And, well, would WWE care about that though? It's a very intriguing situation and one that we're of course going to monitor going forwards. And finally, it was JBL's birthday last night. Happy birthday to JBL, who, well, he might have had a few drinks because he started to go on the old social media and tweet jocular / angry tweets at a certain Cody Rhodes. Now, as many have pointed out online, including Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks, in the aftermath of this, they are blocked by JBL, but don't worry, there are copies of the tweets out there. One of them said, the first one said, in fact, okay, not wanting a comeback, but I could beat at Cody Rhodes any day in a match, just like I could have beaten his daddy. It's simple math. Now back to my Dallas Cowboys, because the Cowboys played last night, and I think they beat the Saints. Congratulations. What a day for JBL. His birthday, his football team won, and he got a bit angry on Twitter. Some of the others said, I'm retired, but our Cody Rhodes couldn't beat me if he tied me to a tree. Neither could his dad. And another one, this is a personal favourite of mine, I'd kill that Cody Rhodes, please. Cody responded in typically dry fashion, saying, I'm thinking JBL had a few drinks tonight. A very good response because he could easily have risen to JBL's very provocative words. I mean, I would think this was all harmless fun, but the fact that JBL was obviously drunk, but I think the fact that JBL mentioned Dusty Rhodes was an attempt to provoke Cody into snapping back, and I think that is quite malicious and quite unfair because, as we all know, people get touchy about when you mention their dead relatives. It's just human nature. Of course they do. I would get annoyed if someone mentioned one of my dead relatives in that way. So I think Cody did really well not to rise to the bait. But at the same time, I don't think it really excuses JBL's behaviour, especially as a WWE employee. I'm not sure how they'd feel about him referencing or calling out someone who has famously now made his name 10 times bigger off the back of leaving WWE. I think potentially, and this is just pure speculation once again, but I think this could potentially be a response to Cody's whole recent storyline on the Being the Elite YouTube series, where he has been possessed by the WWE and he keeps spouting off WWE facts and impersonations and impressions and that sort of thing. It's been very entertaining and very fun, but at the same time, maybe if JBL saw that after having a few drinks, on his birthday though, he should have been happy. Maybe that would have set him off. But again, I don't think we can really excuse the whole using of Dusty Rhodes' name to try and get a rise out of somebody. Apart from that, I'd say it was harmless fun, but yeah, that didn't quite sit right with me. So there we have it, that is all of today's news update. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to at Jack the Jobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic and check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, if you haven't already, to hit subscribe and to join us.